Welcome everyone to the Alchemy Cafe chat room. I am Laura Gavanter, the founder and your host, and I'm so excited to be welcoming Sandy Humby today. Sandy, it's so nice to have you all the way from the UK.
I'm really excited actually about, talking and yes, working with the alchemy.
Really I was really excited to have you because your work is so unique and so different, and I wanted to get that out and to really share that. So you have such an interesting background. You're just some of the things you've done. You're a pranic healer, pranic psychotherapist, pranic crystalline feng shui therapist, rose healer, certified NLP practitioner, NLP coach, holistic health coach, interior decorator, experienced Dowser, and house whisperer.
Yes.
Yeah, you just,
And actually, the piece that was before all of that was I spent 18 years as a couture wedding dress designer. So this background of understanding the story of the feminine, of the woman, and just, the questions when someone came to my shop were always, how did you meet your beloved? And I'd get to see how she felt about her body and things. So it just flowed through that, my curiosity in life took me on a journey. It took me out in this exploration.
Well, so much of your work is intuitive and just is really about sort of exploring the, what can't be seen. Was this something that was always inherent in you and always had this curiosity, or was it something that you kind of developed because it's very different than designing clothing?
But it's interesting. I think that the thread has always been there with me. It was, as a child, I didn't fit in, and I've come to understand that this place of, coming into a birth family where sensitivity or picking up on what was not being said as much as what one was hearing, so many women that I've come across in my journey have had a similar experience in their younger years where they weren't able to trust their gut feeling about something, and it took us out on a journey of exploration to find ourselves in the process. And that's very much been my path and my journey. Yeah.
So did all your studies and your work, was this while you were actually doing this, or was it kind of a transformation from one line of work to another? I know you're saying it's all interwoven, but a lot of this work you studied with people. This was not, you actually did a lot of training.
Excuse me, I've got a pussycat that's just walked across.
We always need a pussycat in the video, and if mine wasn't sleeping on my bed, he'd be here as well.
While I was making the wedding dresses, so I started my wedding dress business in 1982 and closed the last shop in 2000. In that time, I also had 2 small children, and my daughter had asthma. And somebody said to me in 92, 93, Reiki would be really helpful, really useful for you to, because it's sort of very fundamental that, seeing a child not being able to breathe easily. And I didn't question it. I just followed the guidance that this person had given me, and I went off and trained in Reiki in 93. So what was interesting was that I worked with women and for women at that time, and there was a support system that was within the team in the workroom. But also when the women came to me for their dresses, I started off by sketching and listening to their story, but then making a calico toile of the dresses. We specialized in silk and antique French textile. So they were unusual dresses, not your normal white wedding dresses. And the women would say, I don't know why I feel so much better since I came for my fitting. I can't wait to come back, again. And of course, the Reiki was going through everything. So when I was working with the women, I was looking at the subtlety of the colour frequency that was expanding the auric field. What was making this woman radiant in her presence, and what was her relationship to her body and the way she felt about her body, and her relationship with her mother, her relationship with her sisters if they came for bridesmaids. So I was looking at what had created this woman, her life, her magnetics, her feeling about herself, and this connection with the sacred other that she was going to journey with. And the journey from sort of the Reiki took me on into training in crystal healing, numerology, metamorphic technique. There was a real opening that had gone on around my curiosity of energy. So I started making the wedding dresses using numerology, taking the birth dates of the bride and groom, looking at their gifts. What was the exchange? What was this piece that brought them together? And couching gold and silver threads over the heart chakra, semi-precious stones. It was the forerunner of where I was going, from that place.
It sounds magical. It
was this understanding at another level of our evolutionary journey as women, but also in that sacred dance with the masculine. What was this piece about? And so even when I went on to look at feng shui is the weave of the masculine, feminine. And when we're looking at sacred space, it is a weave of the masculine and the feminine. And so even though my time came to the end of my making the wedding dresses, and that coincided with the end of my marriage, it opened up another pathway of curiosity, which was, I had people coming to me for one-to-one sessions, and they would hold the charge of the treatment of the session with the energy healing, but they went home. And some people would hold the energy of the charge. They'd come back and we would build on what we'd done, and other people would come back and they'd slip backwards. So that's where my curiosity then went, what is it about the home? What is the matrix of energy that this person has come out of in the morning and has gone back to? So that was the next piece of the unfolding of the path, really.
Yeah, it just seems almost seamless how it just kind of each built on each other. And then so now the roses. How did that? Because that is such an incredible story, and it's you just embody that so well. So when did that discovery happen?
Yeah, well, it was 2010, and I had been developing work in working with space and working with energy. But my own personal relationship situation was really tricky, and it had really taken me to my knees. I was struggling to find a pathway through. I was struggling to find a way of dealing with the situation that I'd found myself in, and I'd always wanted to go to the Alhambra in Spain. And courtesy of the Icelandic ash cloud, which disrupted air flights in Europe to such an amazing degree, there was the opportunity of changing a flight that I'd arranged. And so there was just this real sense, I need to go to the Alhambra. And the Alhambra is in Granada, in Andalusia in Spain, and it's an old Moorish palace with gardens and waterways and things. And I just knew I had to go there. And when I arrived, it was like I'd come home. It was so familiar to me, the architecture and the feeling. And I walked from garden to garden, because they're like rooms. So it's waterways and roses and archways and so on. And it's like the roses were saying to me, photograph me. No, me. Don't miss me. And I'd gone with my favorite SLR camera. I had always loved photography. It was what I'd wanted to do my degree in when I was in my teens. And I came back with all of these images on my camera, loaded them onto the computer. And a couple of days later, there was a voice in my head that said, we'd like you to put 11 of us together and work with us. And I didn't question it.
Didn't think you were totally losing your mind.
I mean, normally it would be, where's the coffee? But I went down to the computer and I set myself a folder and I started pulling these 11 energies together. And it wasn't always the picture that I thought was the best photograph. They'd go, no, not that one. And so gradually I got 11 together, and I sat and tuned in on them, each one at a time, through meditation, and they started giving me words. This is going to sound like I'm crazy. So they started giving me words and telling me where in the body they worked and how they worked together. And as a collective, they said they had come to heal the Magdalene wound. They had come to heal the wounded feminine. And at that time, I didn't realize it was me.
Wow.
But so the guidance was that I was to place these images on my body in a particular grid, a healing grid they showed me. And I followed the protocol, I followed what they showed me, and slowly I became stronger. Because I really had begun to get really quite sick. I physically was very weakened. And gradually, working with these roses, there came a strength and an alignment within me that was really quite palpable. And after several months of doing this, the guidance was that I was to put this out as a workshop. And you have to bear in mind I had 11 roses at that time, and I put it out, and 11 women came to the workshop. And they were goddesses, these women. They were just incredible. Each one of them, came with such a story and such an amazingly inspirational place to find myself. And the roses at that point said that they called themselves the Way of the Rose. And I realized that the voice that I was hearing was a group on the other planes called the Sisterhood of the Rose. And of course, over the years now, I've been working with them for 6 years, I have a better idea of what that's about and why it's so important for the evolution of the heart and also of humanity. This rising tide of not just women, it's the feminine, the qualities of the feminine, the beingness, the nurturing qualities that we've so missed. And these roses are just pure vibrational healing for the heart. They're pure love codes, and they have no agenda but to open and heal the heart. So that was the path.
It's so fascinating. Are these 11 roses very distinct, not only maybe in their color, but in their formation, in their scent, in other properties? I mean, is each one really a unique
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Each one is its own.
Yeah, very distinct in the frequency that each one carries. And, you know, obviously, when I went to the Alhambra, I had no idea that this was going to come forward. And so therefore, I've got no idea of what the names of these roses are. It was the message that was carried on that particular rose. And the more I've explored this, the rose is such a symbol of the feminine. You know, the Magdalene, the essence of the feminine from the mystery schools was seen to be the golden heart of the rose. The mystery was held within the rose. So all of the feminine mystery school teachings have had a thread of this working through, and there is a science behind it. In the fact that the rose is pentagram in her geometry. So her 5 sepals open not consecutively. They open in the way that you would draw a 5-pointed star, a pentagram. And pentagram has embodied within it a ratio called the golden mean.
I was going to ask you about that, yeah.
Yeah. A ratio of 1 to 1.61803. And this geometry has been proven scientifically now to be the geometry of the heart in love. So the rose and her symbolism as a gift of love at an unconscious level opens the heart. And, you know, my work with, as you know, I've done a lot of work with Christian Kyriakou, you know, developing this process of even connecting people with the heart of home and seeing where the heart is affected and afflicted by trauma, by unresolved emotional stories that we find a real challenge in being able to process. So when there is trauma held within the energetic fields, it sits. So from a pranic healing point of view, if I scan the back heart chakra, there are like little tags that sit in the back heart that have a story connected to them. And when we swallow stuff down and we don't process out the traumas that we experience in life, they embed into the cellular structure of the body. And what these roses do, because the golden mean is the growth proportion of our bodies and our natural vibrancy comes within that frequency, what the rose does when she's used consciously as a healing tool, she unlocks the contraction that occurs within the cellular structure when we store memories down in certain parts of the body. So they came as an adjunct, as a healing tool, and because they don't have any other connotations other than being graceful and beautiful, they're easily absorbed on the body as a resonance and unlock the story. And so when I'm working with them with a client, the rose is energetically placed in the body, it oscillates and releases undoes the knot. And I pull the thread out from the back heart chakra like a ticker tape with a story on it. So
when you say you're working with the roses with a client, can you just kind of tell us sort of a little bit about the process? You know, when you say you're working with the roses, I understand you tuning into them and their frequencies, and but do you actually use roses and literally roses in front of you? Can you talk a little bit about the process you use?
Yeah, absolutely. Because from that set of 11, which work on the physical body, so they create an alignment within the body that allows us to bring heaven on earth. It allows us to weave as above, so below, to fully activate ourselves to the best of our ability. From that original 11, as I worked with them and really understood how they could be a tool for therapy, so extra sets came through. I was sent to, or guided to, go to Rosslyn Chapel in Scotland, where 3 more master roses came through, which weave masculine and feminine and activate the heart at another level. And then I have another set of 11 that work on the 5 wounds of the heart, which are abandonment, betrayal, denial, judgment, and separation. There's a set that work as a bagua that work in our heartfelt expression in the world. And the final 11 that came together are 11 roses that are the qualities of the awakened and empowered feminine. And they make up the Rose Alchemy Oracle that I work with as a therapeutic tool. So that's the base plate. I've got 45 roses that when I'm working with clients, I work on a one-to-one basis to elicit the story. I'm interested in the story just the same as I was when I was listening to the bride who came in to talk to me about her wedding dress. So what's the story? And that starts to activate it into the energy fields. I then invite the client to, I put all the 45 roses out and allow the client to select maybe 5 or 6 roses that they're drawn to. And from that, I can do a rose reading. And then from that can see where the threads are within the body. So I work with them then therapeutically. The client goes onto the couch and in my treatment room, and I work through a process of working with these particular roses to release the stories and heal the heart. So it's a very unique way of working. But, many people, Laura, work with Bach flower remedies and other essences. And these roses are just like essences, except that they are in a pictorial form.
So you're really a rose whisperer.
I'm a rose whisperer, yes.
you need a new title. I mean, I've interviewed, over the 3 years I've had my radio show, people doing all kinds of really interesting, you may want to call them out there kind of things. And you are the first person that I ever have spoken to who actually works with roses. So that this work is really incredible. And it seems like you were chosen for this. Like it chose you.
It's interesting because, when something like that happens, like the Alhambra trip and what came from that, I started to look at the thread of my life. We come in as a soul code and we come in with our gifts and our areas of self-mastery that we're seeking, and we embed into the genetic coding of the family that we birth to. And often within the first 5 to 7 years of life, the original wound will be activated that we take the rest of our life journey trying to heal and work with. And of course, ultimately, that's our gift. That's our precious jewel that we take into the world to help others. And I had a fairly dysfunctional birth family situation, but my connection was with my grandmother. And my grandmother was Rosa Kate, and my grandfather was a professional gardener, and they lived in a little cottage in the middle of the New Forest in England. And that was my place of sanctuary. That was my place of unconditional love. But my grandfather had a rose garden in the front of the cottage. And he used to keep a little shovel by the gate because it was an unmade up road that the forest animals went up and down on. And he used to go out there to get hot manure to go on his roses, because roses thrive on transmuting the manure of life into fragrance and beauty and blossom. And I think when I look at the thread of my life, my journey has been about the healing of the feminine. I was very shut as a child. I became a pleaser. What do I need to say? How do I need to look in order to be safe and loved? And that was a program that many of us as women of the 50s and 60s experienced in our childhood. And my journey seems to have been all about helping women to find their voice and an expression. So when I look at the wedding dresses, I made thousands and thousands of roses, bias cut, silk roses to go on the dresses. And the women would have roses in their bouquets, roses in their headdresses. So the rose.
Yeah, they knew. It's like they knew you were already comfortable and around, and it was already in your being.
And my sister was Rosemary. The woman that my manageress in my shop was a Rosemary.
Oh my God.
And I think this curiosity for me about these two aspects of the feminine, what I would call Lilith and Eve, or an aspect of Mary Magdalene and Mother Mary, this good girl, bad girl, piece of the puzzle that women have been looking to bring into a wholeness in their hearts, to be all that they can be. And my latest exploration has been this place about the sovereignty of working with archetypes and the Queen. How do we find this place where we are comfortable to sit on our throne and hold an authentic Queen energy and to attract in a healed king? How do we bring forward a healed relationship in our external world? The only place we can work is here. This is the alchemical pot that allows us to come into activating, I guess, the golden heart. This is the alchemy, transmuting our pain and our struggle into gold.
Well, I'm sure a lot of people would love when you figure that out. Myself included.
It's like, but the more we're able to have the courage to work with our story, the more we meet others on the path that open insights, open doors for us, open that path to healing. And the rose in her message for the feminine is, so much about being able to embody and hold that graceful presence, that intuitive knowing that is our gift. And trusting ourselves, trusting our gut feeling, and be open to the healing.
Absolutely.
A lot of these tools are so valuable in our journey, but ultimately the only thing that matters in our lives is the condition of our hearts. Anubis in the Egyptian pantheon weighed the heart against a feather at the time of passing, and we are here to have hearts as light as feathers, and that gives us grace. That for me it's the heart is absolute key to the journey.
And we're so much of us are so head oriented, brain, head, thought, and we need to bring it back down to the heart.
And I think, if you're looking at it from the weave of the masculine, feminine, the masculine power centers are analysis, decision making, and base chakra action. and a sexual energy. That's the masculine warrior energy. But for the feminine, the feminine compassionate warrior, the wise woman, sits on heart solar plexus. So in the evolutionary path of women wanting to be honored, wanting to be respected, we abandoned this in favor of, clarity, decision making, and clear action. And that journey in the process for us really, created women like Margaret Thatcher here in the UK, who wore a skirt and carried a handbag, but was very masculine. And, you have Hillary Clinton, again, very much working with male power bases within the feminine. And for many of us as women, there was that evolutionary pathway, into the 80s with trouser suits and shoulder pads, power dressing.
Yeah.
And this place that actually is our authentic power is this heart solar plexus, and it's softer. It's encompassing a place of going here and here to get clear choices, but coming back here for compassionate action. How that affects everybody, how my action affects everybody. And it feels to me that the evolvement of the masculine is for him to, hold his power bases, which is his strength, but to be able to be resourced into the heart and say, how do I feel about that? And then move back out again. So that when we co-create with an external masculine, we have come to that place of balance within ourselves, and there is a super power that is created in that sacred weave. It's not one or the other, it's a sacred weave. And it's that, for me, is what the rose work is about. It's about empowering and healing the feminine qualities of the heart in both men and women, so that when the healed masculine and feminine come together, whether that's in the individual or in the couple, what's created is a third energy. And that third energy, from a geometry, if you're looking at a unified field moving into duality, as that unified field moves back into a unified, that duality moves back into that unified field, what's created is a geometry called the Vesica, the Vesica Pisces. And that, for me, is like the divine child. We're told you will not enter the kingdom of heaven unless you become as a child. And it's not childish, it's childlike. It's an innocent, creative, pure creative portal of potentiality. And that, for me, is a heart flame. It's a heart flame that's a light and that can light the heart flames of others. It's non-religious. It is an energy that we recognize in people that hold an authentic, lit heart or a magnetic charisma that is, holding an authentic light. It's, that's the magic.
Really beautiful, Sandy. Really, really, really incredible. So you do workshops and consultations all over the world. Do you do, just for people, since I'm here in the U.S., do you do remote work as well? I mean, if people were interested in working with you?
Yeah, I do remote one-to-one consultations. I come over to particularly the East Coast. I've been coming to New York and New Jersey for the last 5 years to share the rose work. I'm also going to be a speaker at the American Society of Dowser's convention this year, talking about the rose and the sacred geometry of the heart, the sacred geometry of love. So that's part of the work for me. And come September, my rose classes will be online.
Oh,
and
fabulous.
So that's my next work is to create the program that will enable people to connect with the roses in a different way. I mean, my Rose Oracle deck is available on my website, but it's, you know, I've got people all around the world working with it now.
Do you have any with you that you could just show? I know there's one behind you, but yeah, show them. They're so gorgeous.
So there's 45 rose energies. Wow. And shall I just shuffle the deck? Sure. And see what comes? The rose behind me is actually, she's from Rose Ma, the rose mother of the rose set in this deck. And she says, I am magnetic. I attract to me all that is in deepest resonance to my heart. Mm-hmm. For in that is my truth and my power. You know, and our hearts are magnetic organs, and they attract to us all that is in alignment for our journey. So the clearer our heart field is, the more the magnetics of the heart attract to us that which is our heart's desire. So the rose that's come forward, as we've spoken.
Beautiful. Wow. I mean, they're all gorgeous, but...
And this is a David Austin rose, actually. For anybody that really loves roses, this is a David Austin rose. But this rose says, I am wisdom. And this is the place for that diving deep inside to know and trust our gut feeling, to know the inherent wisdom of the body, so that even if we've got discomfort or pain that's showing us in the body, all we have to do is to turn and listen. Mm-hmm. The body is calling our attention to listen, and within that is a message. You know, this she holds the authentic, wise woman. You know, the women have always been an oracle. They have, you know, going back into ancient Greece and the Delphi oracle. You know, the people have sought the wisdom, sought the guidance, and it's time for us to own that and actually see that authentically within our energy fields. It's there. We just have to trust it. We just have to give ourselves the quiet time to tune in.